How can we tell if a number is divisible by a number like 2, 5 or 10? Well, let's start with 2. For a number to be divisible by 2, it would mean we can share it into 2 equal groups with no leftover. So if we have 18, we can share that into 2 equal groups of 9, and there's no leftover. So that means 18 is divisible by 2. If we look at multiples of 2, you can see all of the multiples of 2 have something special. They're actually all even numbers. So if you've got an even number, it's going to be divisible by 2. What about 5? Well, what we can do is look at multiples of 5. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, and you can keep going. I'll stop at 50. But if we put the numbers in a list, you might notice something special about these numbers. They end in a 5, a 0, a 5, a 0, a 5, a 0, and there's our pattern. So if a number is divisible by 5, it will actually end in a 0 or a 5. What about divisible by 10? Well, they were our multiples of 5, but if we think of multiples of 10, we don't have all of those. We have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and so on. So this time, the numbers that were divisible by 5 include some that are divisible by 10, but not all of them, because the numbers divisible by 10 all end in a 0. Numbers divisible by 10 if it ends in a 0. So if we look at our table, you can see all the numbers that are divisible by 5, and the numbers that are divisible by 10 are there. So there is an overlap. So there are our numbers divisible by 10, and if you think about those numbers, they're divisible by 10, and those numbers are actually also divisible by 5 because they end in a 0. All numbers divisible by 10 are also divisible by 5. So let's check some out. If we want to check some numbers, 35, to be divisible by 2, it needs to be even, and it's not. To be divisible by 5, it needs to end in a 5 or 0, and it does. To be divisible by 10, it needs to end in a 0, and it doesn't. So it's only divisible by 5, not 2 or 10. 60 is even, so therefore it's divisible by 2, and it does end in a 0, so it's divisible by 5, and it's divisible by 10 because it ends in a 0. So 60 satisfies all of those things. The number 73, it's not even. It doesn't end in a 0 or a 5 and doesn't end in a 0, so it can't be divisible by 10. So if it's not divisible by 5, it won't be divisible by 10. 48 is even, so it's divisible by 2, but it doesn't end in a 5 or a 0, so it's not divisible by 5, and it's not divisible by 10.